Chapter 17. The House on Racine Hill. After the house in Rockcastle Holler burned to the ground, Eddie's family needed a new place to live. For a few weeks they had to divide up, staying with friends, sleeping on couches and the floor. That was how Eddie came to eat a pickled pig's ear on white bread with yellow mustard sandwich. Eddie's brothers were mad at him because he'd managed to save his clothes from the fire, but not theirs. They were all wearing odds and ends from the Goodwill store. One day, Eddie's dad came back from house hunting with news. He'd found a place. It was 3 miles down the river from where they'd been living. It was a house on 27 acres of land selling for only $4,000. The reason it was so cheap was because the house had officially been condemned. They piled into the station wagon and headed to Racine. Turning off the highway at the gas station, they crossed the river on a steel bridge. Next, they bumped along the railroad tracks and climbed through the small community of Racine. Taking a sharp left above the town, they threaded their way along a narrow dirt road. On their right, shale cliffs hugged the road. To the left was a 100-foot drop to the railroad tracks. After a mile, the road descended to a small hollow and crossed a creek. Above them, on a promontory, they could make out an old farmhouse. They parked the car on the road because the long driveway up the hill was impassable. After a walk up the rutted drive, they came out on the crown of the hill. It was grown up with golden ragweed. Here and there, pink flowers of joe pye weed waved on long stalks, interspersed with the deep indigo of ironweed. A huge white oak shaded the front yard, and an ancient apple tree shaded the 2-story front porch. Another sheltered the back corner. The house was covered with peeling board and batten siding. It was square in shape, with a simple floor plan. 2 good-sized rooms downstairs, 2 upstairs, and a couple of rooms tacked onto the back as an afterthought. None of the rooms was a bathroom. The house had no framework. Its style of construction was called Jenny Lynn. There were the outside boards and inside boards. No insulation between, and in the winters the head of each nail that penetrated the wall would be beaded with ice. The house was heated by radiant gas heaters, 1 in each room. They were wonderful to cozy up to after coming in from the outside. As the boy's dad carefully opened the back door and poked his head inside, his eyes began to shine. He knocked the cobwebs aside and walked through the kitchen. He climbed the narrow stairs to the upper floor. He opened the door to the upstairs porch, but declined to risk his neck stepping out. He descended to the dining room and then finished his tour in the living room. Turning with a smile, he looked at his family. Just as he was about to make a pronouncement, he fell through the floor, right down to the ground. Fortunately, he wasn't hurt. His head was still sticking above the floor, and he looked up at his wife and children. With the voice of a love-struck teenager, he said, "We'll take it."